Welcome to another episode of TikTok Famous Podcast. Today, I have on the podcast from The Necessary Conversation, one of the co-hosts, Chad Kultgen, and I'm so excited that I said his name right, so stay with me because we're talking about everything.
You're listening to the TikTok Famous Podcast, where viral fame meets raw reality. Join your host, Meredith Willits, as she dives deep with your favorite creators to uncover the real stories behind the scroll, the highs, the lows, the algorithm chaos, and everything in between. This is not your average interview. This is the TikTok Famous Podcast.
Chad, thank you so much for being here today. I have so many questions because I think we are very, very similar in so many ways.
Okay, great.
And I've gone down the rabbit hole on your podcast and your social media accounts, but I have also, of course, when I start stalking you, I get all the anti accounts popping up as well. So I kind of combed through that, pulled through some questions, but from my perspective, I appreciate the conversation. And I know a lot of people don't get it. A lot of people aren't getting what you're doing. But from where I sit, I don't know if it gives me hope or it gives me language or it gives me calm. But for me, it does help.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I definitely have some polarized reactions to that podcast with my parents. Some people say essentially what you're saying. Thank you so much for doing this. It sheds some kind of light on a relationship I have in my own life with somebody who's MAGA.
Yeah.
Or it gives me some tools or some, thought starters in order to actually have a conversation with these people that for some amount of time, that's been an impossible task. Then I also get the flip side of that, which is I get MAGA people telling me that I'm going to burn in hell because I'm stupid, et cetera, et cetera. And then I also get left-wing people telling me I'm going to burn in hell for giving my parents a platform.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of it's a lose-lose, win-win situation all around, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you wrote a book called The Average American Male, which came under scrutiny for being misogynistic and, sophomoric or whatever you want to call it. I think that you probably have a very strong aptitude to put yourself in other people's shoes. I think that you are able to kind of play, just from watching you, you're able to play all the sides a little bit, at least enough to put their shoes on, get in their headspace, look around a little bit, then pop back into your own body and go, okay, how am I going to work with this? Is that kind of the average American male what you did there, or is that more you than I think?
No, it was the Average American Male came out that was my first book. God, I haven't thought about this in a minute. I think that book came out in 2006 or 7 or 8, somewhere in there. So a minute, it's been like almost 20 years.
Almost
Jesus.
20 years. How'd we get so old?
For real. It doesn't feel like it. Every morning I wake up, I'm like, I feel like I'm 20.
I know
other than the
it's
physical
an illness
pain in every part of my body. But yeah, that book was basically like my reaction to, at the time, there was a book that had just come out called He's Just Not That Into You.
Yeah.
And it
I
was
remember
kind of
that.
held up as like, this is how all men think about relationships. And I was like, what the hell? That's how no men think about relationships. So I was like, let me write a fictional novel, kind of in the head of what I perceive to be an average guy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that book was about. It was not me. It was a fictional character. All the characters in it were fictional. All of my books, other than How to Win the Bachelor, have been novels. But yeah, in terms of like what you were asking about being able to put myself kind of in other people's shoes, that's like any writer, anybody who's like creating characters in fictional worlds, you kind of have to be able to do that, I think. But that said, it's like all of these characters they're pieces of you or versions of you or reflections of you in some way. I don't think you can ever create
something outside of self. Yeah,
exactly. And so when you're looking at real people, when you're in a podcast with your parents or your sister or whoever it may be, or a real person, I also think that in humanity, I think we are all essentially the same person. Reflect ourselves, different kind of concentrations of this idea or that idea, but that we all have the capacity to believe and act in the ways that all human beings do, given the right set of circumstances.
Yeah, I think when I approach this whole political climate, myself anyways, um, I'm able to see. So I was brought up in a very, very white community,
Mhm.
in Ohio, you know, Midwest, lots of racism, but also really nice people, right? The
Mhm.
nice folks. Like your
Sure.
mom, she just helped that lady out with her painting the other day with the oil painting. I was watching your podcast on that. Like there's kindness there,
Sure.
but there's also a lot of fear, I think.
Mhm.
And so I'm able to see and understand, like, I get where that family member is coming from. I know why they're afraid. I know what they're trying to hold on to. I know why they want to make America great again. So I see it, but I also understand the 180 of it, which is like, it's not this isn't the right path to take. Is that kind of why you're talking to your parents in this way?
I mean, yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think I understand the kind of mentality of my parents or how they're able to fall into this kind of psychological trap.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a matter of exactly what you're saying. I think at a certain age, every generation, when they are entering the end phase of that generation, looks
Yeah.
back on the world or the country or whatever they perceive reality to be. And it kind of crystallized for them, like what this all is, somewhere in their mid 30s. Then, as society changes, technologically, socially, politically, etc., that old world that they viewed as real, maybe the best times in their lives, is completely gone. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of fear around that. Like, what has the world become? What was my life? What did it amount to? If everything I worked for is meaningless now, and all the things that I used to like and thought meant something don't even exist anymore. I mean, my parents are baby boomers. My dad saw the invention of color television. Now, TV is basically dead, at least
Yeah.
network TV, it's in its final phases. Everybody watches everything online, whether it's streaming or YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And so that's just a small example of how I'm sure my parents see the world that they knew, that they thought was real, that they worked hard to be a part of, and somehow change if they wanted to or have some effect on. That entire world is gone. It's gone.
It's
And
gone.
and I think that that's it's something every generation really has to contend with, especially as technology, the changes in it are getting faster and faster and bigger, like on a daily basis. We're contending with it now to some degree. Um, there was an old book in the 70s called, oh, shit, I forget what the name of it was, but it coined this term future shock, which
Mhm.
is basically like a theory that the rate of technological advancement will get so fast at a certain point that like the contemporary generations won't even be able to keep up with it. Things will be coming out so quickly that you won't be able to even understand what the hell's going on. And we're almost there. I feel like we're
I feel
getting
like
very
that
close to
is
that.
half the movie stars today,
Yeah.
and musicians. Like, it's like, I'm cool. I got that. Okay, my 16-year-old, my 14-year-old, my 27-year-old is bringing home all this music, and you watch award shows half the time anymore. You don't even know who half the people are. You just can't keep up. Do you think that's because our parents aligned themselves with these ideologies that they fought for, right? They
Mm.
fought for this Vietnam. They fought for um they gave their life to jobs. They gave their life to their family. They thought they were building something, and then in their minds it's all kind of falling apart. Like all the ideologies are just falling apart, and they're trying to, as fast as they can, piece it back together. I mean, in essence is what you're saying, is like it's going away.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of a complex question, I guess. At its core, I think all of us, all human beings, all animals, seek to find behavioral routines that give us the greatest amount of comfort, that eliminate the most stress. And it's like, oh, this is fun, this feels good, whatever. And if you can fall into a daily routine that kind of fits that pattern, and maybe for some people that's wake up, go to work, come home, spend time with your family, go to sleep, do it again. And you have your 2 days on the weekend to go to the lake or whatever.
Yeah.
Some version of that, right? As it progresses technologically specifically, but socially as well, those patterns, those little comfortable things that you've told yourself, like, finally, I made it. I get to do this and whatever. Those things stop existing. I mean, even something as simple as like chain restaurants kind of dying now,
Yeah.
they're closing one by one here and there. Red Lobster's about to go bankrupt, blah, blah, blah. Something as simple as that, which may seem frivolous, those types of things, those types of places, at least in suburban America, were kind of a mark of that exact thing I'm talking about. The comfort, the like having fun. We go here with our family on the weekends to Olive Garden or whatever. Something that simple, that kind of stupid sounding. As that disappears, that takes away potentially an important piece of that like cycle of comfort that I think a
Yeah.
lot of families have had, certainly a lot of people. But that's just like tip of the iceberg. The same is true of network television. The same is true of like telephones, like every technological thing that we have that has drastically changed in the last 15 to 20 years has erased some of these patterns, these behavioral patterns of comfort for people. And I think once that's gone, it gets replaced by fear of the unknown, stress of what will replace my little behavioral pattern. How do I fit into this new thing, which I don't agree with? And I think a lot of like, AI is obviously the big technology that everyone talks about currently. It has massive benefits. It has some detriments, and people are very vocal about those. But I think largely the sentiment that is kind of overwhelming on the internet is like, fuck AI, we hate it, it's the devil. And it's like, no technology is actually good or bad. It's how it's used and who's using
Right.
it for what means. But to me, that attitude really connotes a general kind of feeling in the
Fear.
population that this
Yeah.
world is changing in a way I can't control and don't understand. Therefore, I will say it's shit and don't use it and blah, blah, blah. It's kind of a burying your head in the sand a little bit. But I think my parents' generation, I'm not sure how old your parents are, but mine,
Boomers.
as are mine, I think that generation is like, it's having to contend with a lot of drastic change in a way that I'm not sure other prior generations, at least in the last couple hundred years, have had to deal with, because
So
technology doesn't
fast.
move that fast.
Yeah, so
Society
fast.
doesn't move that fast. And those two things are kind of like intertwined as well. I think the quicker technology gets, the more social change we see, because it allows for it at a faster pace. And I just think my parents are like looking back at a world that they don't recognize. And that is extremely scary, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think you get overwhelmed. Like like sometimes you're like, oh my kids will say, Mom, you need to get on Snapchat. And I'm like, I don't want to learn another platform. Like I have it. I don't want to learn how to monetize Snapchat. I'm exhausted. And yeah, it totally can become overwhelming. So just to recap, because of course I didn't talk about it, but you co-host a podcast with your sister Haley,
Mhm.
your mom Mary Lou, and your dad Bob. Why and when did you start this crazy podcast?
Well, the premise of the podcast is my parents are both like beyond MAGA. They're
Yeah,
QAnon. They own all the Trump paraphernalia. They wear the cologne and the sneakers and all this daily basis. They're like Trump lifestyle.
they got the sneakers even?
Yeah, my dad has them.
Oh god.
My sister and I are not. We're very liberal, to say the least. And so somewhere around end of Obama's second term, we kind of had stopped talking to our parents,
Mm,
essentially no contacting with them. Because every time we'd go back to visit them, it would just be my dad screaming in our faces about how stupid we were for voting for Obama and blah, blah, blah. And it would, we're not like starting these conversations. We're just like, hey,
right?
Merry Christmas. Fuck you. You voted for Obama. And so I was like, Jesus, this is intense. So we kind of stopped talking to them. And we would go through periods of like, okay, we're now doing the phone call to be like, how are you doing? Dad's birthday's coming up or whatever. And we'd have these little kind of like tethers back to them every once in a while, but no
Yeah.
meaningful relationship. And so somewhere in Biden's second year, I guess, or third year, my parents were getting older and my dad was going through some health stuff. And I was like, they're going to die and we're not going to have a relationship with them. And
Yeah.
that's going to be fucking terrible. So I said, I called up my mom and I'm like, hey, I had done a couple other podcasts. I really like podcasting as like an artistic medium. And so I called up my mom and I said, I got this idea. I want to potentially do an hour with just you and me talking about politics and your background, what it was like as a kid, why you are the way you are now. Would you want to do that? And she's like, yeah, I'll do one episode. So we did this one episode. Again, the original premise was going to be me and my mom kind of talking about politics. But my dad immediately is in the background yelling all the answers to the questions I'm asking.
Archie Bunker, right from
Exactly. So the second episode was talking to my dad. The third episode was then talking to my sister. And then episodes 4 through whatever we're on now have been all four of us talking about the big political issues of the day from the right and the left. And for what it's worth, like I will say the podcast has helped our family. I get DMs all the time that are like, fuck you, you're just doing this for the money.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
I got a lot of comments in the other videos. It's that you're doing this for clout. You're basically platforming your parents for money.
Mhm.
I don't think that the people that are writing this get it. They don't get where you and I.
Certainly they don't.
They
Like
don't get
making
it.
money at these endeavors is incredibly difficult. And
Yeah.
we've done that podcast for literally 3 years. Our 3-year
Wow.
anniversary was this past Sunday.
Yeah.
And we have started to make our first money. And it's
Yeah.
not a lot. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like,
You're not going to Fiji so much on it.
no, it's not going to pay for any vacations or anything like that, but it's like we have one sponsor, and I do it because it's like, let me get some kind of payment essentially for the 3 years of work I put into this podcast. So we're not doing it for the money. We're doing it because it forces our family to talk. And strangely, like, I didn't anticipate this, but keeping all the political discussion in the podcast makes us able to have kind of regular-ish, I won't call it like good family interactions or regular family interactions, but better family interactions than we used to have prior to doing the podcast.
Yeah. And first of all, you're so calm. Like you're like, all right, Mom, I'm going to ask you a question. And then like you come at it with like, I can do this. How do you not attach your ego and self extension to them and their answers and who they are as people, or at least how they present themselves in life? How do you detach from that? I think that that's what a lot of people struggle with, is that their parents are an extension of them. And so they have to like cut that because they feel shame for their parents. How do you not feel shame for them? Or do you?
No, I don't. I mean, I guess it's kind of twofold answer. One, the kind of like baseline answer, or the, the earthly realm answer, is that I think my parents and a lot of people like them, especially of their generation, are victims of these giant corporate greed machines that are using their technology to essentially brainwash that generation of people. I don't think my parents had a chance. Like, as soon as they turned on Fox News, as soon as my mom got on Facebook and Instagram, it's like, that's a wrap. They gotcha.
Yeah.
So I really feel like they have been indoctrinated into a cult. And if us, their children, their own family, won't stand by them and try every week to pull them back a little bit from that dark place they're in, like, nobody else is going to do it. And I do think, for what it's worth, in terms of like the division between the right and the left in America and increasingly globally, I think it's like, and I hate to say this, I hate to accept the responsibility of it, but I do think it's the responsibility of the left to reach out across that divide and say, we get it. And we know you got duped. We know you're the victims in this. You may not, or you may not accept that or admit that, but we know it, and we're here for you. And when you're ready to come back to sanity, we will have open arms. We will forgive the transgression. Because if you don't have that, what are we setting up here? Another generation of people that, until the day we die, until now Gen X, maybe millennials, are we going to drag Gen Z into this, Gen Alpha? How deep do we want to go at keeping that division in America? Because that division is what allows people like Trump and Musk and Thiel to keep us separated, to manipulate the vote, it's just like, it's designed. And I think people don't get that exactly. The hatred you have for the other side is designed so that we're fighting each other instead of looking at the billionaires who are taking everything from us, freedoms, money, everything. So to me, it's like, I just feel very strongly that going no contact, for me, like, to each their own. However you got to deal with your situation, please do that. For me, that ain't it. It's the exact opposite. It's go full contact, like, see if we can figure this shit out, or at least present the idea that I'm still here, even despite your monstrous views and all the bullshit you're saying. Like, I'm still here, and I will listen to it to some degree. That's answer number one on what I believe is kind of like this kind of physical world level. The answer number two is, I don't actually think any of this is real. And so I'm kind of like, yeah, whatever. I view my parents and myself, honestly, as like a character in a TV show. I just don't think any of this is real. And so that makes me, I guess, maybe it's healthy, maybe it's not, but I can dissociate pretty good from a lot of shit and just kind of take like a bird's eye view of like, even just in the scope of human history and stuff. I know everything is bad right now, but like shit's been way worse in other places in the world if you go all the way back to year zero. And it all kind of like, eventually, if you can have a 200 year from now perspective, what will the world look like? This will be a blip. Everything we're going through will be like a sentence in a history book.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you end up not talking politics the rest of the days? I mean, are you able to compartmentalize that much, or can your dad just not help himself?
No, I mean, my dad's not super active in our like family little group text. It's mainly my mom and my sister and I.
Yeah.
And most of that conversation is about like, you know, what the horse my mom is riding, or how the dog's doing, or that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say it pretty much keeps it all in the podcast. Every once in a while it'll spill out in that group text, but like not too often.
Do you ever feel like you're outing your parents? Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't let everyone know.
In the beginning, I had that kind of feeling, but I talked with my parents like extensively about the fact that if we put this on the internet, there are going to be people that hate your guts, period. And both of my parents have this kind of adversarial worldview, and they're like, fuck it, bring it. So they didn't really care about that. And as the podcast has gone on, I've become like aware of the fact that even just like documenting, like putting a video out of like, here's what a MAGA voter really thinks about this shit.
Yeah.
I think that's important. There's a lot of people on the left who are just oblivious to that shit because their friend group, their family, like everybody in their lives is left. And so they don't know how MAGA people actually think, like the severity of it. And I do think that's incredibly important, because you get to a place like January 6th and it's like, well, how can 10,000 people crash in the windows of the Capitol building and like assault police out and do all this crazy shit? And you're like, that's how, this is how they think.
Yeah.
They're
And I will tell you, I just had a conversation with a MAGA relative, who I will tell you, this person is educated. This person reads a lot, across the board, which I didn't know until recently. And I went at them. I started with the, Constitution conversation. Like, you believe in the Constitution, you stand. Yep. And I said, okay, then what about due process? And I will tell you, I saw a crack.
Yeah.
I saw a crack, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, now this is the person, the hat, the socks, the shoes, the Obama toilet paper. Like, this is that person. Yeah. Literally. And I was like, oh my gosh, I saw a crack. Like, I couldn't believe it. However, in the same conversation, also they were defending January 6th. And I just couldn't wrap my brain around any of that, because I was like, how do you defend any of January 6th, or like letting them, giving them a pardon, et cetera, et cetera. So I am seeing cracks, and some people were seeing that also on social media, I think. Yeah. Do you think that your mom is turning a little bit more than your dad, or do you think she's right where she started?
No, my mom definitely is showing the cracks. And this project, like for me, in the very beginning of it, even when it was just going to be me and my mom, like my kind of secret intent with it was always to like bring her back, Yeah. And I think my dad's influence on her makes that impossible, but just realistically speaking, I don't think that influence will be there forever. And there's going to be a time, in the next 10 years for my sister and I, where we have to contend with like, what do we do with mom? And that idea, like thinking about that with her firmly still entrenched in the MAGA world, like having to have that first conversation with her when it's just her would have been insane. Like, I don't think we would have been able to do it. I don't know what we could have done, but because we've laid this groundwork of a 3-year thing where we're talking for an hour every week, it not like, despite the fact that we're talking about politics and arguing most of the time, we still are talking. And that's like a huge step from where we used to be. And so I think having that kind of framework, having that foundation of having had this conversation for years leading into this eventuality is going to make that a lot easier for us. And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I don't think that you can plant all the seeds that you do. Like, I saw one of your recent videos where you're showing the voting. Like,
Mhm.
there was a chart. Your dad's like, I can read a goddamn chart better than
Yeah.
anybody. I can't even. I mean, he's literally, you got to get him an Archie t-shirt. He's like,
I know. I know. I
he's
know.
a piece of work. But you're showing, the chart of the voting of like
Yeah.
the Republicans, the Democrats, the presidential yada. Um, I can't help but think your mom, I don't feel like your mom has her ego, her entire identity,
Mhm.
even though she's out there wearing that mega hat. I don't feel her entire identity because she has outside activities and this, that, and the other, and you kids. And I think that she loves you kids so much. I feel like her ego isn't based on Trump and the belief in this ideology. Like, I think that she could literally, I do believe that at the end of the day, watching her, she could take it or leave it. Your dad, I feel like it's like in his blood, it's in his
Yeah.
bones, it's a part of who he is, it's who he identifies as at the end of the day. I just feel like with your mom, like every seed you plant, like she does go to bed and go, maybe I should think about that a little bit,
Mhm.
even if it's just to herself. And I think that the best thing we ever did to change this is start calling it a cult, because I think that helps people that are saying, you're giving them a platform, you should go no contact, why are you platforming
Mhm.
this situation? I think that people need to realize these people are 100% brainwashed.
Yeah.
MAGA Republicans are brainwashed. Like, bad. Like my relative is college educated. She watched people die from home abortions back in the 70s. Like like Kent State shootings,
Mhm.
type people, and now all of a sudden has aligned themselves with Trump and this ideology. And we have to look at it just like if someone were in a cult and they were our family member and we are begging them to come back home. Like,
Yeah.
don't drink the Kool-Aid. And the difference is it's been a slow burn. They're not sitting in the middle of Waco, Texas, you know,
Yeah.
hurry, whatever. They're amongst us. They're not held up somewhere away from us. And I think that that's what makes it hard for people to see this as a cult, is that they live amongst us.
Mhm.
They're not in a tent somewhere in a field
Yeah.
singing Kumbaya. But
And
we
it's the
do need to
president.
call it a cult.
It's not like, I think cult has the connotation of like it's going to be some Netflix documentary you watch about some weirdo who opened a
Yeah.
compound in Oregon or something with 200 people, and that's a cult. I think it's harder for the average person to wrap their head around the idea that half of our country is in a cult and the leader is the president of the United States, because it
Yeah.
all seems like it legitimizes it in some way, that it's like, well, no, but he's the president and there's a cabinet and this is just politics. But it's, if you're old enough, as I'm sure we are, if we both have baby boomer parents, you can remember a time when like the most transgressive kind of political thing that would happen is Obama wearing a weird colored suit, or I guess Bill Clinton getting a blowjob from Monica Lewinsky. That was
That'll
like
do
a
it.
pretty big deal.
Yeah. I
But that
begged for
wasn't
those days.
exactly. He wasn't opening concentration camps, even George Bush Jr. like had a lot of faults. Let's not forget that dude was very bad as a president.
Yeah.
Even that era, this is 9/11 happened on his watch. Even that seemed far better than this. And I don't know, like, the idea of what will America be after this in terms of its kind of political identity, its social identity. I'm not sure, because we obviously know Trump is going to try for a third term, or at
Which
least
is
to install
wild.
JD Vance or one of his
Yeah.
kids or whatever. They're going to try to keep this MAGA thing going. I don't know if it has like steam after Trump is gone. I know my parents would not, I don't think, give their allegiance to another person like they have Trump. He does have that cult of personality kind of baked in
Yeah.
charismatic thing that I don't think these other people do. But um, Project 2025 is well underway. They've achieved a lot of goals already.
What'd they
And
say? Like 48% of it's already box
yeah,
checked.
yeah. And the bigger things that they're starting to try and talk about doing now, like getting rid of the mail-in voting ballots and stuff, they're really going
Beat the
to
war so we
destroy.
don't have to vote.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to destroy the voting system in this country if they haven't already. And I think there's more evidence coming out that's starting to lean toward that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I mean, it's like, are we as a population capable of revolution? That may be what is required.
That's kind of where That's kind of what I see. Like, it's just they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And now, all these other states sending in troops to DC when
Yeah.
crime rate's down 30%. And everyone's just like, you know, the fact that any of these other governors are getting on board is just certifiable to me. I believe this whole thing started, at least from what I've seen, was with Obama.
Hmm.
My dad always says, the was it Roosevelt or whomever said, show a man that he's better than the average black man, and they'll let you take your money for days, or whatever that saying is. Meaning, if you can convince a white guy,
Yeah.
that he's better than a black guy, blah blah blah. I think that this all started with Obama and all the closet racists or outward racists were like, oh, hell to the no.
Mhm.
And the pendulum just swung from Obama when all of us had hope. All of us were like, holy shit.
Mhm.
Like this is changing. How dumb were we? At least that's how
Yeah.
and now we're swinging to the exact 180 of everyone being emboldened. I feel like we've gone back 50 years, socially, racially, LGBTQ plus, all of the things. Do
Mhm.
you feel that this started from where you sit with Obama being elected?
No, I think he was probably like you're saying, it really fired up the racist contingent in America. But I think it was before that. It really, in my mind, started probably in the 80s sometime with Reagan. Just the idea that like corporations started to become ultra powerful, their lobbying power became like it was stronger than it had ever been. And that only increased when you had like the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court that allowed essentially corporations to behave like individuals, to give effectively unlimited amounts of money to any political campaign. Once you had that in place, it was game. It didn't matter. Like Obama could have been any other Democratic president. I think the fact that he was the first black president did like add to it for sure.
Yeah.
But I think Trump, or some version of Trump, well, it's kind of the end phase of all of these decisions by the Supreme Court to allow corporations to just have their hands fully in our political system. And now we are seeing an oligarchy essentially being formed as the American political structure. I don't think I just don't think it mattered who was in those chairs. Like I said, I think Obama probably did fire some people up in a way that like a white president wouldn't have, but it still would have been a Democrat that they all hated, and Trump would have been able to use that as leverage or whatever, to get to where we are now. And it's just the consistent kind of weakening of the political structure by allowing more and more money to come into it from corporations and giant billionaires, the Koch brothers, all of that, I think ultimately is what has led us to where we are now. I know that racism, homophobia, transphobia, all these things play into the ideology of the right. They are a part of it for sure, and Trump uses that. But I think that that's still more of what I was talking about earlier. It's this very designed division. This is your enemy. Hate them. Don't watch what I'm doing. Don't look at the fact that I'm stealing all your fucking money and taking away your right to vote. Look at that guy. He's bad. He's terrible because he's not like you. And so it's just another way for them to kind of like drive a wedge in between the American population. Because if we ever all woke up and we're like, wait a minute, we're actually in this together against them.
Yeah.
It's over. Like, like in France, they'll have like general work stoppage protests where the entire country is just like, we're not working until you change this. No one's going to work. If we could have that kind of solidarity in America, we would, Jeff Bezos, sorry, buddy, nobody's coming to work in any of your Amazon factories. Well, that's the end of that company. You could literally crumble Amazon in a matter of a month if no one showed up to work.
Well, look at Target. They say this is the greatest example in like the modern era with us looking as the power that we have. They're just losing billions and billions of dollars. They're ready to crumble. I mean, it is amazing to watch that's just, some Democrats that are making these changes.
Yeah.
Like some of us are doing these things and not
Totally.
visiting, and it's changing it.
Yeah, and we all know we can do it. We went through the pandemic. We can all stay home. We know we
Yeah.
can. You know, I think, like, to me, that's kind of the most powerful thing we have as a population in America. If we don't like what's happening, obviously protests, get out in the street. I love to see all that kind of stuff. But just like a general work stoppage, if we could get even like 70%, 80% of the people on board with that, that's
Yeah.
it. Like, they have to capitulate to whatever you want at that point,
Yeah.
whatever the demands are of the general population. And I just don't know if we have that in us. We're gonna see, because I think it's getting down to that time. Like when Trump starts these midterm elections, I think are going to be fascinating. I personally believe the elections will all be rigged. I personally believe that, just based on everything we're seeing with, I don't know if you're following that
The new
County
rhetoric of
trial or court case that's going through. It seems very likely to me. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm getting sucked into my own conspiracy theory. I don't know. But it seems very likely, based on what I'm looking at, that the 2024 presidential election was not on the up and up. And if that is true, I can only expect that every election after that will have a similar kind of like outrageous conclusion. That you mentioned that graph that I played. That graph, this was in our
wild
episode. This dude is basically showing in the Hillary Clinton election in North Carolina the rate at which people were turning in votes that had like all down ballot votes casted. So for like school superintendent, city comptroller, whatever, all the local measures, and then left the presidential vote blank. He shows that graph, and there's a little bit of that. There's some kind of like 2%, version of that.
Yeah.
Then he shows the 2024 election. Every county had more votes for the school superintendent than they did for Kamala Harris. And the number by which she was under zero was exactly mirrored over zero for Donald Trump in an almost perfectly mirrored image. And you're just like, well, how is that even possible? That cannot be real.
Because it's not.
Yeah, I'm at that point as well. So anyway, I hope that answered the question. I don't even remember what it was.
Well, I just, you're good. We're both rambling. I did brilliantly. I just look at it, and I don't know if you know who Unlearn 16 is. She's got like this great mohawk. She's a teacher from Canada. Brilliant. If you haven't followed her yet, she's amazing.
Okay.
She kind of does the hand in the camera, this like, and she's like, all right. And she teaches us all about American politics and tariffs and everything like that. She's awesome. She was on the podcast, I think last week, and she's talking about like, get to gray, get out of black, get out of white, get to gray, so that at least we're starting from like, just unlearn everything, just throw all of it away, and then ask yourself, is it possible that no one voted for Kamala Harris in an entire county? Just start there. And if we just get rid of all of the ego and all of the preconceived notion and all of like I said to my family member, get rid of all of it. We've eliminated due process. Are you okay with that? Just get rid of all of whoever said what. Like, and that's kind of what I'm watching you do. Like, all right, Mom. You always seem to start with her, probably
because she'll give an actual answer. My dad usually just yells some incoherent Trump talking point.
Yeah. And it's just like, all right, like, just let's get rid of everything, and a lot of people do it really well on social media. They'll say, so Biden was talking about a 9-year-old or talking to a 9-year-old and said, I'll be dating her in 10 years. And they're like, well, they need to put Biden in prison. And it's just like, well, actually Trump said that. It kind of neutralizes the brain and then like kind of rips apart your ego and then throws you back in the ring and goes, okay, wait a minute. How do I think about that? Because I'm so tied to my belief system and my alliance with this, whatever it is, either Republican or Democrat, and I made a video recently and I was like, I don't give a shit who's on that list. If they find out that my dad, my son, my brother was going to the Epstein Island and gave $1.1 billion to Epstein, throw them in prison. I don't care if it's my husband. Lock them up. And I think that people aren't realizing that I feel most Democrats are like, lock them all up. I don't give a shit if you find out that Obama was there, if Clinton was there, lock them up. And I think that the Republicans, the Trump Republicans, aren't understanding that we mean that.
Yeah. My parents definitely don't. That's something that comes up in almost every episode. We'll talk about something Trump did, and then my mom's immediate first reaction is, well, Biden, da 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 da. And my sister and I are always both like, we don't like Biden. I don't know why you think that. Put him in jail too if he's done crimes. Like, we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If you are doing these heinous things, whoever you are, there should be some kind of punishment for that.
Yeah.
Period. I don't care about party affiliation. And that's how you know the Trump thing is a cult. They do. They will excuse this bad behavior, criminal behavior, horrific behavior in service of party line. And I don't think most Democrats will. I 100% agree with you. I don't know what it is about Trump other than he has this kind of uncanny ability to tap into, again, I think that adversarial kind of worldview, which plenty of people have. So he's able to say, here's your enemy. I hate them. You hate them with me. And that's kind of what they bond over. Yeah. And then if they get these small victories, either on social media or in some executive order, as long as there's a video of a liberal person being aggravated by whatever's happening, they've got to win. And they'll pass that video around and eat it up like candy. And it's, again, part of that, like, owning the libs and fuck you, I'm right, you're wrong type shit. That attitude is basically the entire modality of Trump's whole platform, his whole candidacy, everything that he's done.
Yeah, I read a book. It was about avoidant attachment, and it talks about externalizers and internalizers. Mm-hmm. And externalizers basically are affected by the world. Basically, it's the world's fault of anything that's going on inside of them. And they also serve a really great purpose because they also then protest. So they're the protesters in life. They feel like they have to change the world so that they can be comfortable. I'm an internalizer. I am the person that feels like I affect my life the most. I probably don't blame people, maybe even sometimes enough, right? So there's these internalizers that everything's my fault, and externalizers. And I feel like when I'm looking at what Trump is tapping into is that externalizer mentality of, if we can just change all of them, then you'll be comfortable. If we can just get rid of all of them, then you'll have money. And it's like a way of thinking. It's a way of feeling of the they are affecting me instead of I am affecting me and I have control over my own self. And I think he taps into that very, very well, because most of the people that I've noticed that are externalizers did vote for him.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting to learn about. And once you learn about externalizers and internalizers, you'll literally go through your friend group and be like, because you're like, the world makes them very uncomfortable. They blame the world on their problems. And it's very religion 101, right? Like create the beast and then save the person from it. It's the same mentality of religion is, there's the devil and I'm here to save you from it. 10%, please. And I think that they're just following this, cult of personality or cult 101, which is
pretty interesting.
A formula, basically. Sure. Yeah. And it's working, and it just keeps working. It keeps. I made a video this morning. You'll like this, I think. Do you remember the Peanuts where Lucy would put the football down and then and every single time Charlie Brown would run to kick it?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is literally Putin and Trump, and Putin is holding the football.
Yeah, it is.
And Trump just keeps running up to it, thinking that they're going to make a deal. And every time Putin was like, not today, sorry.
I know. It's like watching how Putin is just kind of like playing him like a fool every time they have an interaction.
With a smirk on his face.
Yeah. And the right just doesn't see it that way. They believe whatever Trump says. It's wild to me. The externalizer, internalizer thing is interesting. I tend to have kind of like a different view, I guess, of human behavior, but that kind of fits in line with how I look at things. For what it's worth, again, I don't think any of this is real, but certainly there are real rules that govern human behavior, that govern the physics of whatever we perceive reality to be, even though we have massive limitations in our understanding of that. But I think like the one thing we can all agree on is everything we see in our world that we built, every human kind of endeavor, is the result of abstract ideas. And I personally think there are 6 ideas that basically govern every human behavior, and they exist in 3 pairs of opposed ideologies. So you have government and art. Government is the repression of expression, free speech. Art is the expression of free speech. And these things are always at odds with each other. You have God and science, or religion and science, however you want to perceive that. Religion is zero curiosity. Here are the answers in this book. Question nothing. Science is the opposite. What the fuck is this shit? We got to figure it out. And then you have love and money. Love is at its highest kind of form, pure compassion, pure empathy, zero competition. Money is only competition. I must have more of it than everyone else.
Yeah.
And everybody is presented with all 6 of these ideas at a very young age. And you are usually given your stance on that idea by your parents, your friends, whatever. And you can change that throughout life through personal experience, et cetera, et cetera. But you must have some stance on each of these ideas, whether you lean more towards art or government, whether you lean more towards money or love. And even within each of those ideas, everybody, I think, exists on a kind of sliding scale of completely altruistic to completely competitive. So, for example, like in, we'll take politics or government. If you're completely altruistic, you're very likely to donate to charities and to whatever your political candidate is, and you're going to get out the vote, and you're going to maybe go canvassing and all of this kind of stuff. If you're competitive, it's fuck the other side, cheat to win, gut the voting system. That's kind of where most Republicans are. And I just think that those 6 ideas, pretty much, if you can look at a person and say, like, and you usually get a vibe pretty quickly. What's like the most important thing in your life? Do you like God? Do you like government? Do you like money? Are you happy in your relationship? Is that where you're focusing most of your energy? And then you can also see whether they're competitive or cooperative on that sliding scale with that idea. And once you have kind of a general plotting in this chart of ideas and competitive versus altruistic, you can essentially, I think, predict every behavior a person will engage in.
I like it. So do you think that when you look at your dad, or when you look at your dad and you plug him into all those categories, right?
Yeah.
Do you look at that and see that the thing that moves that sliding scale, using him as an example, is the basis of his scale location fear?
I mean, fear is kind of like, all fear is fear of death. Like, once you really drill it down, it's fear of ending your existence. No matter what you're afraid of in life, no matter what fears you may have, it all actually is that. And I think we all have it to some degree, unless you're very high. At some points, you have no fear of death, but generally speaking, you know what I mean.
Float around, it's fine.
Yeah, for my dad, I think his primary motivations are money and government motivating ideas, and he's high, like, as close to 100% on the competitive slider as you can get. He hates everybody else. Fuck you. It's a zero-sum game. I win, you lose. That's how he views the world. However, his weakness, his kind of kryptonite in that, strangely, is love. And that little piece of him is so fucking buried deep down, but I can get to it every once in a while. And strategically, that's kind of what I'm trying to do in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, for what it's worth, I'm trying to get him to cry. And I think if I can get him there, and I've come so fucking close a couple of times. My God, I've come close.
What was the question?
I told him once, most recently, I told him once that, he's 73 now. He's going through some health issues and stuff, as we all will when we get to that age. I basically told him, like, when I think of you in my head, who I see is not that guy right now sitting in the chair. It's like you when you were 25 and happy. And I almost see like an angelic version of you. And he was like, it stunned him for a minute, he was on the verge. And I think it's like a person who has just like wrapped themselves in a high level of competitive attitude, and it's engaged in one of these, like, government, money, and religion, I think, are kind of like in my mind anyway, those are like the dark sides of the
trilogy of doom.
Yeah. And if you're locked in these kind of things for such a long time in your life, it's become your identity. I think, again, like we were talking about, there's fear in relinquishing that identity, because it means whatever you did in your life that led up to this point, you have to let go of a little bit.
Yep.
And I don't think my dad is capable of doing that, but I'm trying. And I think the older a person gets, the more likely they are, strangely enough. And I mean, the older, not when they're just in their 60s and 70s, but like
Yeah.
when the Grim Reaper is staring them
Start
down
pushing.
every morning when they wake up, that is the time I think you can get a person to maybe relinquish all that shit and understand like that was bullshit. What really matters is us. It's our relationships with people, specifically in this case with your own family.
I look at a lot of racism and the isms as being kind of the outcome or the sum of, low self-esteem,
Mm.
where if as long as I'm better than them, then I'm at least better than somebody,
Yeah.
and do you ever have that conversation with your dad? Because a lot of people have come out and been like, he's come out and said, I am a white supremacist,
Yeah.
period. I make no bones about it. I don't care. Kill everyone in California, which PS you and your sister are in California.
I
I
am. My
can't.
sister's in Texas still,
Or
but
in
I
Texas.
am in Los Angeles. Yeah.
And, like, is like when I hear him say that, what I see him answering that in more of a panic.
Mm,
Like, get it off me. Like, here's my answer. Can we just stop the conversation?
mm.
If I just say this and put a period at the end of it, you're going to stop pestering me. That's how I see him answering that. And I'm not an apologizer. I don't know your dad. I have
Yeah.
not spoken to you prior to today. I'm not trying to apologize but that's how I saw that answer come across
Mm.
was make it stop.
Hmm. I mean, he grew like I think anytime you're talking about somebody who has an ideology that is counter to humanity, like racism, um, you have to like look at their whole lives, like what really influenced that. He grew up in the 1950s in a very small town right in the middle of Kansas. I don't think
Okay.
he saw a black person until he probably went to college. So that's a part of it for sure. And I'm not apologizing for his beliefs either, nor will I excuse them. I just like to look at like how did we get here,
Yeah,
and
how'd
I
we get
think
here?
the
I think you have to do that
ignoring
in every situation is
exactly, yeah. I
we got here somehow, and unless we look
yeah,
at that, we're not gonna understand how to undo this because we need to understand the psychology behind the people that should be
yeah.
normal. It
No,
should be
totally.
normal. You've never
Yes.
missed a meal, you've never missed a mortgage payment, you got 2 cars in the driveway, you live a good life. Why are you bothering to hate people? Where is this coming from?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the attitude of like, don't give them a platform, go no contact is like, again, to each their own. For me, it's the wrong idea because it doesn't allow you to examine why they think this way.
Yeah.
And if we just put that, like everybody who thinks like that, if we just say, fuck it, I'm not talking to you, lock it up, we don't want you on YouTube, we don't want to hear from you, then we never understand how this happened and why we're at this point and how to fix it if it happens again. Because I mean, I don't know if it'll be in our lifetimes, but like there's going to be another Trump. Sorry to say it. This will all happen again. It like that's just human nature. And
Yeah.
so I think a better way to go about this is to be prepared for the next time by examining exactly how this happened. And for me, my only real way to do that is to talk to these two people in my life who are, I think, primary examples of being victims of all this shit and see how they really got there. But to answer your question about my dad's racism, I think it probably started just because he wasn't exposed to anybody but white people as a kid. He gives some weird story. We did an episode where we talked about the origin of my dad's racism, and he gives some weird story about when he was in the Air Force, somebody didn't make a bed right or something, and they had to run extra miles for it or some shit. I have no idea. It sounds completely made up, and I think probably was. But even if it wasn't, like that's now why you hate everyone who's not white. That makes no sense. I think
Yeah.
it's like for him, it goes back to that thing that I was talking about where he's like almost 100% on the competitive scale and as opposed to being
Winning.
cooperative.
Yeah.
And so it's like he views everybody as an adversary and any difference they have from what he perceives to be himself or normal or good is something he will hate them for. And so anybody who's not white, you're getting put in that bucket. Anybody who's not a guy, you're getting put in that bucket. And I think that's just how he operates. That's how his brain has been wired. But
It's easier. I mean, I always say
yeah.
if you can put, brains, we like to put people in buckets and pockets and
Mhm.
then go, okay, I'm thinner than her. I'm poorer than her. I'm smarter than her. What, like whatever it
Yeah.
is. And then, okay, so where within all of these people do I fit? because I need to know where I fit on the planet. Again, going back to externalizers, like you define me. If I know where you are, then I know who I am. I think that's a part of the human brain, is just to constantly figure out where we are on the planet, to see, do I need to work harder? Do I need to work less, et cetera, et cetera. Going back to your dad and, painting a wide brush after having to run an extra mile. I was actually sitting down with a bunch of women, and I told them, because they said something, something racist. And I said, if you can't take that example that you just gave and just swoop it across the whole class of that group of people, it's a lie. And, let's go with an easy one, or all blondes are stupid. So there's no blondes that are smart. Okay. So unless you can kind of do that, and they went, can you say that one more time? And I was just like, yes, and I think that sometimes people just want to be lazy. And I think that I always say that racism is lazy, cheap self-esteem. It's an easy go. If you think about it, it's like, sure, I can see that skin color better than them.
I totally agree. I think there's for me personally, just again, to each their own, my own kind of personal view of humanity, reality, human consciousness. For me, I think we are all actually the same entity. I don't think there 100% is difference between any human being. So racism to me doesn't make sense. Hating Donald Trump doesn't make sense. I believe we are the same thing that Donald Trump is.
He's just an extension of us. Yeah.
He's just an extreme, we are all kind of distilled versions of whatever ideologies and attitudes about all these things we have. He is that on an extreme level, obviously. But I think when we all die, I think whatever's in us, whatever that, call it a soul, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, I do think it gets returned to itself. And I think we all get to look back on whatever we did here and be like, Jesus, we really had that wrong. And then you probably get reincarnated and have to do it all over again.
You gotta do it all over again. Probably. And forget everything. I just figured this out at 40, that we're all one and this, that, and the other.
Yep.
Do you think that there's a reason someone like you and I are so focused on this? What is that inside that Trump button, that this politics button is pushing inside of us?
You mean, why are we so focused on Trump?
You and I, literally just us as people. There's a lot of people that I have a lot of friends that have absolutely no idea what's going on politically. Yes, that's a privilege. Oh, please. They think everything's just, totally oblivious.
Wait, where are you in the country?
Outside of Chicago.
Wow.
Very, very wealthy area. Okay. So they don't have to pay attention. They don't have a clue what things cost. When I moved here, I met this one gal, and I've always been a very frugal person. No matter what I have, I'm still frugal. My husband and I will drive up and down the streets picking up junk, and then we'll turn around and sell it on Facebook Marketplace. Wow. I shit you not.
All right. Nice side hustle.
I'm all right, last week we made $100. This week we have to make $150. I'm always pushing. Nice. But it's fun. We drive around, we talk and whatever. Yeah. It's a couple streets. Anyways, and I remember talking to this one gal that I met here, and she's like, yeah, I don't ever look at prices. I'm like, for anything? She's like, yeah, no, I have, you could ask me how much anything costs, and I have no idea. Food, gas, nothing. And that's,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Good work if you can get it. Holy shit.
Yeah, you should come visit. You get a kick out of it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's my whole goal when podcasting is to just make sure that the leaf blowers, they were actually at the top of the hour.
I heard them.
You heard them. Yeah, exactly. It's
I have them too. I understand.
My husband's always like this, because now he works from home. He's like, this is insane. I'm like, no, it's the life of the leaf blowers. It never ends. It's so bad. But yeah, there's people that are completely oblivious. It's I don't watch the news. They don't have to care what things cost. They're not clocked in. And I just wonder, why am I so incensed by this? To the point where I'm over here talking about you. I'm probably losing followers as words come out of my mouth, literally. And I know you've received hate, death threats. Your parents have received death threats. what's the end game in here? What are we doing? Like, I feel like we're not moving the needle. Sometimes I feel helpless. Sometimes I feel like I'm talking in a vacuum, but then as soon as I say that, they're like, yeah, but remember that conversation you just had last week where you saw a crack?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a tough one.
I don't either. It's a tough one. I agree. I also have like differing views on, again, the fundamental nature of reality and what time is, and are we even experiencing anything? Does free will exist? All these questions kind of play into it to me.
Well, that's another good conversation because I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm a psychic medium.
No shit.
It's like my job. Like, I do podcasting because I'm like very curious person. I have 2
Let's get
podcasts.
into it.
Yes, I channel and everything. Like, that's my like whole life. Like, you and I could talk reincarnation for days. Like,
Yeah.
I'm QHHT certified,
What does
Julia
that mean?
Dolores Cannon with like the past life regressions and stuff like
Okay.
that. Like, I do past life regressions. I don't anymore because I can't sit in a room for 5 hours. But yeah, like that's like, so when you're talking about time and reality, I'm like, bro, you don't even get it.
I mean,
I
I'll tell you this. I'll just give you kind of a quick history of myself. I
yeah.
started getting like super high and getting deep tissue massages maybe when I was in my early 30s. And it was just a way to be like, I would go out and play like weekend warrior baseball, and my whole body would just be jacked. And I'd be like, oh, I need a massage. And so I get high to make it feel better. Then at a certain point, I started adding in listening to like theta wave, weird space
Mhm.
music and shit while I was doing it. And then it was like every time I did it, it was like I was not there. I literally fell through the massage table and was just like seeing shit, dealing with all kinds of internal shit. It was like therapy in a
Yeah.
real way. I think I dealt with a lot of my parents' issues when I first started doing it. And then it became just kind of like a purely creative outlet where I would like work on whatever book or whatever little thing I was trying to write or project I was trying to do. I would use that time to like really dig deep into it, and shit would just come to me. And sometimes I would have conversations with things in there, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Is my brain making this up? Is this shit real? What the fuck's happening? Then I got introduced to Gateway. Do you know Gateway?
Yeah, of course.
And so I started fucking around with that. And I've been with some regularity doing that for about a year or two now. And I guess maybe longer. And I'm trying to have an out of body experience. And I get so fucking close. I get to the part where your whole body is like vibrating and you
Mhm.
can kind of feel
Yep.
like, oh shit. And then it never fucking happens. And I want that so bad. But I'm like, at this point, from my own personal experiences and from everything that is happening right now in science, I'm 100% convinced that consciousness is not coming from the brain. I think it is. I
The
think we're
brain's a
like,
computer. Yeah, the
yeah,
brain's just like holding shit.
exactly. I think we're receivers, antenna, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
The human body is basically like a car.
Yep.
And what is driving it, I don't actually know. I don't think any of us do. But like I said, I've just had experiences with these kind of like weird, deep meditation or meditative states that I'm like, I'm pretty convinced this shit ain't it. And science is now backing that up. A lot of like quantum field theory stuff right now. I mean, it's basically laying out that like subatomic particles, especially below the Planck length, which we can't measure, probably do exist. And quantum entanglement, there's some fringe theories that are basically saying like these are not two particles transmitting information at
It's the same.
zero speed. It's the same particle. And
It's
that
the
maybe
same.
all particles, which aren't even particles, that they're just like vibrations that manifest as particles in whatever this physical shit is, whatever it is. I don't know. There's just like a lot of very interesting science that's coming out right now that essentially is upending everything we thought was
Yep.
real about the physical universe.
Yeah.
All that said, that also kind of makes it way easier to talk to my parents, because in the back of my head, that shit's just kind of
You're
constantly
like,
on loop.
none of
Like,
this matters. None of
yeah,
this
none of this
matters.
is
None of
real.
this
None of
matters.
this is fucking real. Whatever we're getting out of it, whatever the purpose of it is, which I do think probably there is one that none of us can really grasp or understand. But it is starting to seem like, at least mathematically, there are levels of existence that are being proven that are beyond space-time. So literally beyond like the physical realm that we know of planets and stars and space and black holes and all that shit, and time itself as we experience it in a linear modality. There is math that suggests there are things that exist outside of that system.
Yeah.
So what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how to take that really, other than this shit ain't real.
Yeah. Yeah. It's,
That
I mean,
sounds right.
I look at everything and I say, everything that's happening, even this conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's bringing us back to us.
Mhm.
So your experience with your parents and being on the podcast, all that is to find you. It's
Mhm.
to bring you closer to you, to figure out, and all of the things, like, when I talk to clients, it's like your job, your spouse, your kids, your dog, your house, everything about everything is to peel you back to find you.
Mhm.
And so, maybe at the end of the day, these podcasts, these conversations, the videos, the insanity of all of it, is to realize what we don't want to be,
Mhm.
and that's what I tell my siblings, like, or friends, like, break the cycle,
Yeah.
be the change. I think Gen X is the change generation of something I can never imagine. Like, the way I'm raising my kids versus the way I was raised, which the way my mom was raised. Like, we are the change makers, and I see it daily of how much of a difference our generation is, which is funny because being the silent, like, we
Yeah.
just, like,
The
kind of like
apathetic,
sit back, apathetic bullshit.
whatever.
Yeah, and here we are, like, doing the work, from
Mhm.
going from beating the shit out of us to not hitting our kids at all, etc.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's none of it's real. All of it matters. None of it matters.
Mhm.
It's all just, I think, an exercise in finding out more about ourselves at the end of it, like,
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I literally don't know because I go from like times where I think like, oh, this is all very serious and we're here for some purpose to learn some greater good. But then you get into these moments where like if I'm hitting Gateway hard, like doing it every night for a couple of weeks or whatever, this shit, like the game, if you want to call it that, starts playing back with you a little bit. Like in a
yeah, yeah,
fun kind of like weird way. And you're like, well, this is like a fucking joke just happened in my life that only I get. I just saw something walk past me. I'll give you a good example. There was I was doing this other podcast with a buddy of mine, and we were kind of at a standstill with it. Like, what should we be doing in this podcast, basically?
is
And
it Will Sasso?
yeah, it was this podcast called Dudesy. And there
I
was a
kind of am
little,
in love with him, just so you know. I think he's
oh, wow.
I think he's just the cutest ever, and he was so amazing. And what the hell was the name of that Netflix show? Jesus, it was just
Louder
recent.
Milk.
Louder Milk. He
Yeah,
was
he was great in it.
so good in that. And then I started following him on Instagram. I'm like, oh, damn, he's married. Oh, so am I with 4 kids. But still, it doesn't matter. I can still be madly in love with
I'll
with
let
Will
him know.
Sasso. Yeah. If he ever wants to come on, tell him I am
Okay.
here, and I promise I won't even drool once. Go ahead.
I'll let
Sorry.
him know. We were doing that podcast, and there was a bit that I had started doing in it called Wizard Man, where I was
Mm.
making these AI videos of Tom Hanks in this fictional movie world called Wizard Man. And so I just like in Gateway was kind of like, what should we be doing with this dumb fucking podcast? What are we doing here?
So you were asking questions inside a
Yes,
gateway.
correct.
Awesome. Okay,
And
love it.
so literally the next day or two, my girlfriend my girlfriend got very into knitting. And so she was on Facebook Marketplace doing these back alley deals with like to get her special threads and needles and all this shit. So we
Love
had to
it.
go meet one of these thread dealers basically at a mall close to us. So we go to this mall and we're walking around, we get the thread, we're like, oh, let's eat lunch in a mall. We haven't done that in a while, that'll be fun.
Oh my gosh, right?
And as we're walking through the fucking mall, to my knowledge, Wizard Man is not a thing anywhere else. There is no book called Wizard Man. There's nothing that I could Google and find that was called Wizard Man other than these weird little shorts I was making. As we're walking through the mall, a dude walks right past us wearing a t-shirt that he had made himself, like had the words printed on it, Wizard Man. And I was just like, what the fuck? And
That's vortex. You're vortexing.
whatever it is, I was just like, the game's playing back a little bit. And
Yeah.
in the past, like maybe month or so, I've had so many of these little weird
Yeah.
synchronicities and whatever. And I just feel like in those moments, how bad the world may seem to you is like, but there's something that's kind of cheeky going on here. Whatever's like
Yep.
in control of this, or like whatever the purpose is, it seems like the purpose is fun more than it is any of the other
Yeah.
shit, even though we have so much of the other shit.
But that means you and I must be having fun arguing with Trumplicans.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's weird to me. That side of it is like, I do think that there is, again, this is just my own conjecture about the nature of reality and whatever. I don't know any of this shit. This is just from my own personal experiences, things
Yeah.
I've read, whatever. But it does seem to me like something happens when consciousness gets ported into this physical reality that
Yeah.
has these certain limitations, like a video game, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one analogy.
You
a
got
lot of
your
people like to use.
skins, you got
Yeah,
your tools. Yep.
exactly. And one of the big limitations I do think is time, because time allows for consequence. So if you make a decision, you get to see the outcome of it, good or bad, however that affects you, whatever. I'm not sure time is real. As I said up top, or prior to this, there's math that suggests things exist outside of it. Even within our own universe, our own physical universe, we know time is relative. If you're closer to a large body of mass, it moves slower to you than if you're further away from it. If you get closer to light speed, it moves slower than if you're not. We know that's all true. So it stands to reason that even within our universe, there is some place where stuff is either infinitely massive or moving so fast that time does not move at all.
Yeah.
Then it also stands to reason the other thing is true, that all time has already happened somewhere in the universe.
Or is all happening right this second. There is nothing outside of this second. It's stacked versus linear.
Yeah, could be that.
Like a vortex, like a this.
For sure.
Yeah.
It just, like, mathematically, we kind of know that time doesn't really work the way we believe it does or the way we experience it. And so when you start to think about, then, well, like, why would you put human consciousness in these constraints with time, with death, with, physical collisions, like we can interact with things? It may be that, like, that consciousness, whatever it is, some kind of universal God type consciousness thing, is like, well, let me see what happens if there's actual consequence to what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, etc. Let me make this little thing and separate myself out into 8 billion different versions and have them go head to head and come up with good ideas and bad ideas and help people and hurt people and all of that shit, just to see what's possible. That
Yeah.
is kind of what feels like is right to me. So when you
Yeah.
look at Trump, like, Trump is part of that. Everything Trump is doing is part of
Yeah.
that. So too is our reaction to it. So is my parents'
Yep.
reaction to it, the conversations we're having, et cetera, et cetera. All
Well,
that
he's
said, I have,
definitely a catalyst. I mean, he's a catalyst for good and he's a catalyst for bad, but he's definitely the protagonist of a catalyst of change, of
Yeah.
clarity. When I remember the first time I did a reading for someone and I kind of saw the bad guy. And it was a woman, she was talking to me about her stepdad. But every time it was a mediumship reading, and every time I kept seeing the stepdad, he kept flying away with silver wings. And I had no idea what I was looking at.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like turned and looked at me. And it was like, I came in to play the bad guy. And I was like, but then why do you have wings? He's like, because it's not easy to play the bad guy. And I played the bad guy in her life for a reason, because she wanted to experience. I mean, you and I could talk about this for days.
Yeah.
It would start to make a lot of sense. And I know, this is the bitch. I know Trump's playing the bad guy. I know it. I know it's a role. I know it's a character. I know it's here for a reason. But then I jump back into my human body outside of that realization, like you're saying. You kind of play on both sides, as I see sparkles right here in the room. And I'm like, I know this, but I can't help myself from making videos about how annoying it all is.
Of course, because we're trapped in here. This is like I think the big trick of, like, whatever this is. By this, I mean, like, the physical realm.
Yeah. The
Or
3D.
what we call that. It's the trick of it is that we don't know this isn't the whole deal. And I think that that's like, it's necessary to get whatever is supposed to be happening here. That's necessary. But now we're in an era, and maybe we always were. I think there's something in the way, like, the human antenna is made.
Yeah, like it's the veil is thinning, so we're able to
you can fuzz it out a little bit,
get it a little. Well, I had a situation the other day. I was really frustrated, and I called my husband from a parking lot, and I was telling him, and I said, "Look, whatever you do, you be loyal to this boss of his, one of his bosses." And I said, because I'll tell you what, I should have done XYZ with this client, and I didn't. And if I would have, she and I would still be working together. It was a really good client.
Mm.
I haven't heard from this woman in a year. And I'm standing proclaiming, right? I'm
Yeah.
proclaiming this. She texted me the next morning and said she wants to work together again. And I went, ooh, there's something to speaking shit out loud. Like, way something. Like, I haven't talked to this woman in a year. And
Yeah.
I proclaimed the clarity, right? This clarity of whatever I needed to know in that moment. And I called my husband the next day. I'm like, she freaking texted me. She wants to work together again. I'm like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
That's what I'm saying. That's that game playing back with you.
Yeah. It's like, okay, let's do this. All right. You know,
I
do
had
to do.
a similar kind of thing happen this past month for me. I've been putting a lot of energy into that podcast with my parents,
Mhm.
and I've kind of been neglecting some of my other creative outlets that I usually like to do. And I just was like, damn, thinking this. I didn't speak it out loud, but I was like, I got to pitch some TV shows. I have some good ideas and stuff. I need to like get on the horde, get my agent and be like, set up some meetings. The next day, I got emails from 2 TV executives that I worked with like 15 years ago who had both seen my parents' podcast and emailed me and were like, hey, dude, you got any TV ideas? I saw your parents' podcast. Da, 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 da. And I was just like, well, that's all it takes. You just kind of think about it.
Well, I mean, look what it was. It Tesla and or Einstein was
Mhm.
like, your imagination is everything. Like
Yeah.
Tesla used to just go to sleep at night. I have a girlfriend that can do this. She just scaled a business 15 times and sold it
Mhm.
15 times. And it was
Yeah.
a field in the middle of nowhere. And she created this whole thing. But Tesla used to make all of his inventions in his head down to the millimeter. And then he'd wake up and then he'd create all of these inventions. And
Mhm.
that's why, and also Einstein said your imagination is worth more than your like intellect or whatever,
Yeah.
because your imagination is what's spawning all of these things. And so like when you place your attention on it, you're creating it. I mean, I could tell you stories, Chad, of like these things in real life this past month. You'd be
Mhm.
like, you did what? And like, I think that maybe that's the gist. Maybe we just need to like spend more energy intentionally imagining and having fun with it and realizing that
Well,
like oh
I think just even on like a fundamental level, what we're talking about is kind of, like manifestation or whatever. It
yeah,
seems
yeah,
magical. It's like I just think about something, then it happens. But even on like a less kind of magical level, everything we see in our society was created from an idea.
from an
Somebody
idea.
had to think, I want a building to look like that, or I want a machine to do this, or whatever the case may be. Somebody had to have an idea of something that does not yet exist, and then they made that thing exist.
Yeah.
That's how it all works.
All of it.
And
Period.
so I think it's like it's not for me a big stretch to think like, well, it doesn't just have to be like, I have an idea, now I will physically make it. There's a there are other levels to that where you can just kind of think of shit and it happens to some
Yeah.
degree. I just think there's like too much evidence at this point pointing toward like the woo-woo world being real.
Yeah.
It can't be
Literally.
ignored at this point. And much of it's scientific, like I was saying. I know we've got, thousands of years of, at this point, recorded history to one degree or another that kind of all talk about this here and there, communing with the gods, having certain spiritual experiences, spiritual avatars coming in and out of cultures, all this kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think it's just overwhelming at this point. I watched some Netflix documentary talking about past lives that was called Surviving Death, I think, or something like this, or
Mhm. You'd
I don't
like
remember
the
what it was.
book, Many Lives, Many Masters? The
Yes,
That's
I know
excellent.
of it. It's on my list. I'm right
Get
now
it. It's an
rereading.
easy read. It's like it's so tiny, but it's
Yeah.
so powerful, and it just kind of like helps you get in there. Yeah, past life regression is fascinating. I used to do them for people, sit in a room for 5 hours and
Yeah.
pray to God they go under. I can't do it. I can't put my life in like that much person's hand, like praying to God they didn't drink caffeine that morning
Yeah.
and whatever. But I do past life readings, and it's fascinating. I had this one gal, all on the phone. Like I love phone appointments because then like I don't know anything about you, and she's like, "Can you do a past life reading while we're on the phone? Because it's your time, your
Mhm.
appointment. I'll do whatever you want." And I'm like, "Okay." So I saw it was a lion, and this is why, and her cubs, and like I can see all of that, right? It's it's kind of crazy. Like if I didn't do
Yeah.
it myself, I would never believe it. Never. I'm the
Sure.
biggest skeptic. And she's silent. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, I literally have a lion tattoo on my thigh. I'm like,
wow.
shut the hell up. She's like, no, I'm not even kidding you. Like, and that happens all
Yeah.
the time so like when people say they have a spirit animal, I literally think it's just like their most recent animal past life, like living experience. Like when people like save dogs and they have like 300 dog rescues, I'm like, you were 100% a German Shepherd dog in your past life. Like there's nothing that I doubt about that. But it is fascinating. If you ever have an opportunity to do a QHHT, email me. You'll find one in LA 100%. It is fascinating. They're all over the place.
No, I've had like in my past, I've definitely had girlfriends who were very into the shit and did these things, but it was at a time in my life where like I
It
thought
wasn't
this
for
was
you.
all bullshit, you know? And now
Trust.
I'm like, fuck, I should have done it with them.
Dude,
so many
I'm
regrets
telling
about
you.
that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I am the biggest. My dad's a lawyer. My mom's an English college professor. Like I worked at a law firm before I all of a sudden figured out I could do all this stuff. And that was when I was 35. Like I had a whole life. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I can talk to dead people. Wait a second. What the hell's going on here? And you can too. PS, it's just I totally taught myself. Anybody can do it. You just have to be like open and trust it. We do it all the time. It's like gut instinct.
Yeah.
You can practice it. Like if I said, okay, shut your eyes, walk in the kitchen, take your right hand, open the refrigerator, take your left hand, take the milk out. Is it cold in your hand? Like that is clairvoyance. That's how you practice clairvoyance. And then you start to play with it and then you start to trust it. We do it every single day, all the time. You actually did it with those two TV people. You thought of them. You guys connected your quirks and your flirks and your schnurks of the atoms. And then you called them in and they didn't realize it. And they thought they were thinking about you and you thought you were thinking about them. But actually you guys were quirking and flirking together. And that's how that happened. But yeah, and it's mind-blowing when you do it because you know you're not lying to yourself. You know you're not lying. And then all of a sudden, and I'm a hand on the stove girl. Like, are you sure it's not hot? Are you sure it's not hot? Let me just touch that. And so I'm that asshole. And so like I think that God knew, the consciousness knew she's going to have to literally talk to dead people and literally be able to do this for her to believe in it, because there's no way I'm believing that anybody can talk to dead people. It's not happening, not in my. So I had to do it myself. And so I think that that's why I've gone through all the things that I've gone through, mediumship, psychic, I can channel aliens.
Oh, what do you think aliens are? If I may ask.
Say that again?
What do you think aliens are?
I think that they're us, just not on this plane. They're just exactly like us. They just don't have the same physical dense bodies. That the idea that we're the only people out here is radically insane. But I'm telling you, if I couldn't do it myself, and that's why I try to tell people all the time, I promise you can do this. It's just trust. It's just like, stop being in your ego and just say it. Say the thing, because you're going to be right. And it's weird. I once did a Facebook Live. I used to do Monday Night Medium, and I was really new at it. And I was doing it, and all these people were watching me, and it was very intimidating. It was like over a decade ago. And I just kept seeing this dead guy, and he's like, yeah, it's like a glass bottle. I'm in a brown bottle. And I'm like, I can't say that. Like, I'm hearing I'm in a brown bottle. I'm like, I can't say that. And then I finally said it. I'm like, he's talking about like that he's in a really weird, like, and I'm filtering, and I'm like a weird casket, like a bottle or something. She's like, oh yeah, we have him in a Jack Daniels bottle. I was just like, what?
They put his ashes in a Jack Daniels bottle?
Yes.
Damn, that's a tough ass family right there.
That's some
Holy shit.
I know. And I was just like, and here we are, and like the less you get in your ego and want to be right, then that's when it just starts flowing. So if I were to say to you, and you're inside of your thing that you're doing and you're going there, stop wanting it. Just like throw it, just keep throwing it to the wind. Just throw caution to the wind. Like, I don't care where I end up. I don't care where I have no end game. I don't care where I end up. And it's kind of like what you're doing with the podcast. Like, you don't know what your end game is. You're just doing it. You're just doing it for the playfulness of it, the connection with your parents. And that's how I would go at your tapes too, is just like, there's no freaking end game for any of this. I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go under today. And I don't give a shit where I end up. I might end up nowhere. I don't care where I end up. I'm going to wake up and go to Outback Steakhouse. I don't give a shit, but I'm going for the playfulness of it. And when you go at it with no end game, you're going to have an end game every time. You're gonna. It's just the zero end game.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But I could like teach you like some of this stuff. Like it's
Please?
not.
I'm
hard.
down anytime.
It's not hard. Like it's literally practicing, like hearing your mom talking, like hear your mom in your head.
Okay.
That's clear. That's clairaudience. Now, instead of it being your mom, you're going to start trusting the other voice. So we have to get out of our ego and into our spirit. So like the nasty voice that's mean and judgmental and tells you that you're stupid and all that stuff, like that ego voice, we shut that down. And then spirit goes, oh, wait, he's listening. Like when you said, I should really reach out to TV people and talk to them about shows. You were listening to your higher self there. The ego could have came in and said, you're so stupid. You're never going to get back into television. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But instead, you listened to spirit and you sent your emails or they called you or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's literally what side of the brain you're open to listening to. Right. And then so once you start getting those downloads, which is what you were getting when we were talking about it earlier, the good thing is we haven't hit too many topics during this podcast. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm here for all of it. But like, honestly, like as you start opening up, they'll be like, turn left. Don't forget. One time I was at Walgreens and I'm standing at the end of the cashier aisle. My husband's checking out and all I could hear was, buy ginger ale. And I'm like, what the hell do I need to buy ginger ale for? It was right there at the end of the night. Right. And I'm like, I am not buying ginger ale. That's so stupid. Walk in the door. My son's like, my stomach hurts so bad. All I want is ginger ale. And I was like,
wow,
stop it. And every time I ignore, I call it the whisper. Every time I ignore the whisper, it's a disaster. Every time I listen to the whisper, life is so easy. So easy. And it's just like, you should do this and you should call that and go for this and go for, and I'm just like, oh, that's nice. I should. And I trust it and I trust it and I trust it. And it's a game changer, but it's just trusting that voice. And you can practice with real world, like I said, walking into your kitchen or hearing your mom's voice and playing with that part of the brain that hears something that's not really there. And then once you get rid of your mom's voice and you kind of get rid of your voice, and then all of a sudden there's a different frequency. Remember when you were saying your body was vibrating? You're going to pick up a different frequency that feels like you're leaning forward almost. It almost is like oh wait, that's a different, I hear that voice and it's not mine and it's not my mom's and it's okay. I'm that's the voice that is what people in the woo-woo world call spirit guides. And I'm not love and light girl either. I'm not like, oh, and I'm not any of those people. Like I am planted deep into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a real thing. It is.
No, totally. I mean, like I said, I kind of shit on it for most of my life. I was very much a materialist, atheist, all of that shit. And I don't know what it was. I read some article about, I don't know. I don't even know what it was, but it was something scientific that about like quantum field theory or something like this that kicked me in a direction that was like, well, wait a minute though. What is human consciousness and how is that related to like what we think of fundamental kind of foundational science? And then it has led me on a path of like all kinds of weird shit at this point in the past maybe 10 years or so.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I so appreciate you being here. I don't want to keep any more. You've already been
my
on
pleasure.
for
Thanks so much for having me.
Hour and a half. This is just like, I am here for all of it. Thank you. Chad.
Yes.
Is in, not only is he interested in metaphysics and spirit guides of one, but he also is a co-host of the podcast, The Necessary Conversation, which you could find on YouTube. And are you everywhere podcasts are listened to too? I usually just find you on digital. And he's also on TikTok, so go check him out over there. He's always got some great shorts over there with his mom and dad and sister. And it might help you if you are in a relationship with someone that you love that's in the cult. It might help you to open up and have these conversations and see how it's done calmly and without your ego attached. Hopefully you and I could do something in the future, because clearly we have more in common. I told you when we started this.
This is the game playing back right here. I'm down.
I told you at the top of the hour, we are more alike than you even realize. There was just something about you. Yeah. But I so appreciate you being here. And
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. I'll see you here next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the TikTok Famous Podcast with Meredith Willits. If you're loving the unfiltered stories and behind-the-scenes truths, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show. Until next time, let's get famous.